Broads Media.
Jalen Herz got disrespected, damn it, and I'm going to tell you why that is over the next half hour. All right, we're breaking this thing down. If you are new to the channel, hello, welcome on into Broads Media here. We break down Philadelphia sports every day. If you hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button, that will be greatly appreciated. You can take me on the road with you, by the way. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, search Sports Talk with Broads on those platforms. 5-star ratings and a review will help out the algorithms. Thank you all so much. And lastly, if you want more Broads Media content, well, you do have the ability to join the memberships here on YouTube, where you will get live streams twice a week, Coffee with Broads, and it's always a blast. We get to hang out, kick it with one another. The information is down below on how to join. You also get access to our Discord channel as well, a 24/7 chat room with myself and all the members. It's been a blast. I'll shut up now. Thank you all so much and enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. So Jalen Herz was left off of a top 10 quarterback list projecting the 2024 season ahead. And who voted on this, you may ask? Well, NFL executives, NFL coaches, and scouts. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of dumb NFL executives, NFL coaches, and scouts, because mistakes are made nonstop. So it's not as if they are perfect 100% of the time. And quite frankly, one of the times they're wrong is right now. Because when I see the names on this list, specifically at 10, specifically at 9, there's no way in hell I'm taking those two quarterbacks over the one here in Philadelphia now. Jalen Herz was not the problem with this offense last season. You can't ding Jalen Herz for the issues that Nick Sirianni provides on a day-to-day basis. That pisses me off. And Kellen Moore is here now, correct? So if I'm projecting out on what this offense should look like, granted, losing Jason Kelce, but I still expect this offensive line to be dominant with Cam Jurgens sliding in there. You lose a ton. You lose a lot of knowledge, for sure, and leadership. But that offensive line with Jeff Stoutland should still be one of the best in all of the league. Here's Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in this offense with some pre-snap movement, with creativity, with versatility, without being super vanilla to the point where Christian McCaffrey sits on his couch on an ESPN broadcast with Eli and Peyton and calls out plays from his living room. That's how bad the offense was. Quarterback draw. Here you go. Snap, quarterback draw. I mean, he's seeing it from his couch. That's the issue. And that, in theory, okay, and in principle, changes with the addition of Kellen Moore, and they still think Jalen can't be better than some of these names on this list? Nah, I don't buy it. So let's talk the list, shall we? Number 1, Pat Mahomes. I don't think there's a soul that's going to argue Pat Mahomes leading the way. Number 2, Joe Burrow. Once again, I think that is fair. Number 3 is Josh Allen, and I have more on that in a little bit. But number 3 is Josh Allen. Number 4 is Lamar Jackson. So the top 4 quarterbacks heading into next season are all in the AFC. The first NFC quarterback to crack the list is at 5, which is Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford's resume is probably superior to some of the other NFC quarterbacks. He's also, though, 36, and while he throws for a lot of yards, I don't know, you're telling me the best quarterback in the conference, albeit it's a weaker conference at the quarterback position, is a 36-year-old Matthew Stafford? Maybe the answer is that's true. Maybe that is right. But Okay, that's not groundbreaking by any means. Like, it's not a quarterback. It's like, whoa, Matthew Stafford. All right. Justin Herbert at 6. What? This guy is a 500 quarterback. You know what it is? I think the eyes show you something that you want him to be, but he hasn't really been able to do it. He really is truly, after a bunch of years now, a 500-ish quarterback. Now, I think you would want him to be something more than he is, and he's constantly playing with injuries, and I give him credit for stepping up and showing heart, showing fight. I'm sure his teammates love it to death, and maybe with their head coach over the last few years, it was a disaster more because of him than it was Justin Herbert. If I'm going to take shots at Sirianni and give somewhat of a free pass to Jalen Herz for the incompetence offensively, and still somehow, by the way, being an MVP favorite through 11 weeks with that incompetence, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it from that angle. But come on, Justin Herbert. I mean, I just think he looks the parts, but is he the parts to be the top 6th quarterback next year? I don't know. CJ Stroud at 7. I got no issue with riding the hype train because he was that phenomenal last season. He was a dog. I mean, he was a dog. To not ride that hype would be silly. So I get it. I can get behind that. Aaron Rodgers at 41 years old, coming off an Achilles injury with the New York Jets, is number 8. That seems more like I am basing this off of your career play more than it is, oh, yeah, he'll be fine. Or they're afraid of Aaron Rodgers because he'll run his mouth and start yapping on the Pat McAfee show or something along those lines. So they get uncomfortable and say, I got to put... Excuse me, I'm burping over here. I just chugged the coffee. We got to put Aaron Rodgers in there or else he'll start running his damn mouth. I don't know. This is where the stickiness comes in, though. Jared Goff at 9. Dak Prescott at 10. No! There's no way in hell you're telling me if you're starting a franchise right now and you have to head into a season tomorrow, you'd rather have Jared Goff. Seriously, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. You don't think that he was a difference maker this season for Detroit because of Ben Johnson, one of the most intriguing offensive coordinators around the league, who should be a head coach this season and is waiting for his prime spot to pounce? You don't think that played a massive role in how good Jared Goff was last season? Exactly. And we had to deal with Nick Sirianni's garbage offense with the first-time play caller and Brian Johnson getting handed that slop and saying, please make gold. Please make a 5-star restaurant-type meal. By the way, I'm giving you incredibly bad, spoiled, rotten ingredients. Of course it does. Of course it does play a role. I mean, seriously. Now, let me get this straight. These executives, coaches, and scouts are the same ones that put Sean McVay on a big-time pedestal and says he is one of the smartest offensive geniuses we have in this game today. I'm not going too extreme here. This is what they claim. That, there's Andy Reid, there's a few others, but man, is Sean McVay in a different tier, and this guy is somewhat changing the game with how incredibly smart he is. Okay, well, that's the same guy that looked at Jared Goff and said, he's holding me back from winning a Super Bowl. I'm close. I have a lot here, but Jared Goff is not capable of running what I want to run, and we are getting stopped very close to the finish line. He's getting us close, but I need a Matthew Stafford. I need someone else. And that guy you're telling me is now the second best in the NFC? I'm not buying it. And don't even get me started on Dak Prescott. Now, over the years, I did say that, sometimes the criticism was too harsh on Dak. And I stand by that. But, I mean, at this particular time, Dak Prescott has been around a long time. Do you know what the Dallas Cowboys do on a year-by-year basis? Choke. Fail. Devastating losses. Year in and year out. You don't think that plays a role? Like, for example, maybe Jalen Herz had a down season last year. But you saw what he was capable of doing in 2022 and brought this team to the promised land, and I thought actually outdueled Pat Mahomes in that final game with the light shining bright. So my point is that I haven't seen Dak carry his team for 1 year and bring him all the way to the Super Bowl and outduel Pat Mahomes and come up just shy on the scoreboard because, I mean, the offenses were going toe-to-toe. If it wasn't for some bullshit flag on James Bradbury, then we would have gotten the ball back last. And the way that game was trajectory of that game, it was obviously going in the favor of the Bird. Whoever touched it last was going to win that damn football game. And the problem is we got robbed of a damn flag call there. We got robbed of Jalen Herz with the game on the line about to secure a Lombardi trophy. The way he was playing that game, it was automatic. It was a lock that was happening. It wasn't the same Chiefs team that had Spags and that defense cooking like they were last season. It was different. It was free-flowing, and there was plenty of space to operate, and they were in their bag, that offense, that game. Absurd. So my point is, with the inability to have playoff success for Dak, it's been long enough now to know if I'm looking into next season and I'm seeing the changes that Kellen Moore should be providing with this team as they're incorporating him under center. They're incorporating play action. They're incorporating an ability to actually have pre-snap movement and confuse the defense and create all sorts of communication issues where their linebackers have to talk. They have to speak. Oh, here's the snap. Oh, where's A.J. Brown? Oh, Devontae Smith. The whole thing. It's going to click. It's going to work because it makes sense at an NFL level. And by the way, Jalen Herz is getting criminally underrated here. So I'm not telling you he's number 1 on the list, number 2 on the list, number 3 on the list. I'm telling you that he should be better than Jared Goff and Dak Prescott. What I think happens is people are getting enamored with yards thrown. And 4,000, it's an offensive league. Hertz can't throw for the same amount as maybe Dak does or Stafford's number. I don't care just about yards. First off, this is a different era of football, meaning it doesn't always have to be in the air. A lot of these quarterbacks come from the college game. They're dual threat guys. And now the NFL is more adapting to that lifestyle compared to the old school pocket passers. So if Jalen Herz is unique in his own right and he has a different version of play and his style is maybe different than some of the others and he could do it with his legs and he squats 1,000 pounds and it looks different with the numbers. Like, I don't think if you look at the numbers that Jalen Herz has on a box score week to week, it tells you the full story of how great of a quarterback is when he's playing his best ball. 2022 was insane. But if you just look at box scores afterwards, good for you. What do those box scores get Dak Prescott? Failures, losses, the whole entire city saying, I don't want to pay this man $60 million and we can't win. We are not winning. So congratulations on all your regular season 300 and 350-yard games, 400-yard games. It's gotten you nothing. Literally nothing. I see a winner in Jalen. However he gets it done, it's irrelevant what the stats say. He gets it done. When there's competence, there was just not competence last year, and that was the biggest issue. Think of this. We are now heading into year 4 of Nick Sirianni, right? So far, whenever he was the top offensive mind in the franchise, the offense has sucked. Whenever somebody else gets handed the keys, it's significantly different. And we'll see with Kellen Moore, but I think it'll be significantly different. It should be, or else we're having a real discussion. So my point is, there has to be a correlation between Nick having the top offensive mind in the franchise and when somebody else does. When he handed it off to Shane Steichen, everything improved. And don't tell me last year was Brian. I'm sorry. You got to think of it in this regard. They were just coming off of the Super Bowl. So after they're in the Super Bowl and lose, you don't think that Nick Sirianni's voice carries a certain weight because look what I just did. I got us there. I'm good. I'm damn good. We'll elevate Brian Johnson, who's never done this before at the NFL level. Nick's voice mattered more, offensively speaking. And then the offense went to crap because whenever he's the most important offensive voice, it goes to crap. He's just not good. He's just not good. So Hertz is in the same category as Brock Purdy, of Tua, of Trevor Lawrence. And maybe you can make the argument that this is good for Jalen because all of the best, they find ways to motivate themselves. Michael Jordan would make up things. So this isn't making it up. It's real. And okay, we're all talking about it for a reason. Hopefully this fuels Jalen Hertz. He does seem to be the one that when he's doubted, he rises to the occasion. Now, ultimately, at some point, once you answer the bell, you need to find a way to maintain that as the best, as one of the top guys, as one of the best quarterbacks that nobody is doubting anymore. You need to just step up and deliver. You can't fall back and then respond to the criticism, then fall back, then respond to the criticism. Although, once again, the surrounding incompetence played a role in why last year was garbage more so than Jalen. I think it's, and Jalen was not perfect by any means though, but if I had to break it down from a pie chart perspective, I think I would go 75% coaching, 25% Jalen. So there were plenty of sequences where you can look at Jalen and say missed throw, missed opportunity, but the overall play design is what caused the issues. And let's get into some of the audio here. Here's Jeremy Fowler talking about Jalen Hertz and maybe why he was where he was on the list. Let's play it.
Injuries and bad offense, Greeny, was pretty simple. You know, executives pointed out to me that Jalen Hertz did not look right last year. The Eagles could downplay whatever knee issues he was dealing with in season. Wasn't even really on the injury report in some cases, but they felt like he just wasn't moving the same. Couldn't do that dual threat ability that he's so good at with the offense.
Now, okay, that's interesting. So what that tells me is looking into 2024, because that's what we're doing here. Either one, they don't think he's going to be healthy then either. Or two, Kellen Moore, with a healthy Jalen Hertz, isn't going to be running any sort of offense that will be beneficial to him and his legs? I find that so hard to believe. Yeah, you know what? I think he was limited due to his injury. And part of being a successful quarterback is being able to stay upright. And if you're playing at 70% and that devalues the, not devalues your skill set, but, it takes away from a three-headed monster type of wave with your offense. You're either handing it off to Miles Sanders or DeAndre Swift at the time, or you're keeping it yourself. If you're an edge rusher and you're a defensive end and you're trying to contain and you're getting kind of toasted towards the outside and here's the RPO and you don't know what he's doing, you got to make a split-second decision. He's either handing it off to one of the backs, he's keeping it himself, or maybe he pulls it very quickly back to his chest and throws a laser to A.J. Brown, who can then make something happen with his legs with space, ball in his hands, and then cooking a defender and, just being a monster that he is. That's so much thinking to do if you are a defensive player compared to, not even being an option. Now that three-headed monster becomes a two-headed monster, and it makes it that much easier. It does. Jalen's not keeping the football. So that injury did limit him last season, but I don't expect that to be you now every season are going to see a 70% Jalen. I don't know. I mean, Lamar Jackson has had injuries, and then there's times where he hasn't had injuries. Aaron Rodgers has injuries, and then there's times where he doesn't have injuries. Matthew Stafford has injuries. Then there's times where Matthew Stafford doesn't have injuries. Justin Herbert is playing with all sorts of rib cage damage, and he's getting taped up with his ribs. He can barely stand up straight, and he still finds a way to maintain a top 6 selection in this top 10 list. So it seems to be hurting Jalen way more in the analytical data. And I think that's what this is. It's the analytical data of the numbers telling them something more than it is actually watching the game of football and seeing how Jalen Hurts leads his team just when he's doing his thing. And look, I do think he needs to improve some things with leadership. I talked about how Brandon Graham has been open about it, and guys have been open about we go as he goes, and when things get a little rough and he's doing his stoic face, you know, there's an element to it, and he's been working on it. It's been noted. There's been a different approach to it this offseason. He's willing to open up to some of the guys in the room differently, and like that's fine. But overall, Jalen, he's getting dinged up because the numbers say something instead of them just seeing how he carries a team when competence is around him. And by the way, you know what? I'll save that because it ties together with another clip later on. Let's hear from Jeremy Fowler on a little bit more with this Eagles team.
And then Nick Sirianni's attack with Philly last year was just not very good. I mean, they were in a situation where they kind of rolled the ball out, tried to do what they did the year before. Teams adjusted. Eagles didn't evolve, so Hurts was in a position where he just wasn't highlighted. I will point out that a lot of voters say, even though he's very good, he's never really going to be a top 5 quarterback in the eyes of a lot of evaluators. They say he's sort of in that 7 to 13 range, depending on how he does that year.
7 to 13 is a massive difference. Being a top 7 quarterback in the NFL, or you're almost at the halfway mediocre mark. Now, I guess you're saying, because as he alluded to, he mentioned that depending on the year he had, his floor is middle of the pack and his ceiling will be a top 7 quarterback-ish. And I guess that's not, if your floor is middle of the pack, there's people whose floor is bottom 3rd in the league, and then their ceiling is middle of the pack, if not maybe a tick above. So yeah, it's not a bad starting point if your bad seasons is, you're somewhat average. It's your bad years, right? And you do have up and down years. Not everybody is the top from year 1 to year 15 if they're playing a 15-year career, which is a pretty damn good career to log in, by the way, when you clock in and clock out. I think 7 and 13 is too wide of a range, though. You know, that's middle of the pack or top 7. Well, but I do think that he's closer to being, and I don't need him to be top 7. I just think he's better than Jared Goff and Dak Prescott. That's what irritates me most about this list. But think about that. The offense didn't highlight the quarterback. Hold on a second. The offense didn't highlight the most important part in the offense. How is that possible? How are you building a structure around the team, knowing that Jalen has a unique skill set, and then your offense doesn't highlight what he does well? It pisses me off every time you actually sit on it and let it marinate. All right, here's my last piece of audio. This is from Acho on Fox Sports 1, and I completely disagree with this. Take a listen.
I don't think Jalen Hurts has ever been the reason his team has won a playoff game. Go back and look at it. He's never been the reason his team has won a playoff game. He had 188 yards in the win versus the Giants. The Giants have 7 points. They win without Jalen Hurts. The Niners, all their quarterbacks was hurt. It was Jalen Hurts versus Christian McCaffrey. He had 160 yards in that game. The Niners have 7 points. They win without Jalen Hurts.
All right, so pretty much his philosophy is you need a quarterback that's just going to go out there and win you games, and Jalen Hurts doesn't help you win games as the guy. It's just not true. Sure, there is a team element, and there was dominance on the defense. Yes, the defense had 70 sacks the year they went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, their defense was good. Spags and his defense was good last year. You don't win that Super Bowl without the Kansas City Chiefs defense being the star of the show. But let's use the Chiefs as an example because, yes, there are times where Pat Mahomes pulls wizardry out of his ass and wills you to win. Outside of that, Joe Burrow did that once. What happened? Not sustainable. Gets injured, gets beat up, gets taken to the ground. Cute story when he was getting sacked a bunch and had no offensive line. But that's not a year-to-year-to-year thing where Joe Burrow is taking snaps and he's just thriving and being able to go to Super Bowls nonstop with that offensive line. You need an offensive line. You need a team. You need a team. Joe Burrow playing hero ball by himself without an offensive line gets you killed. It doesn't work. Move on to the next one. Josh Allen. Josh Allen plays hero ball. Josh Allen has a fatal flaw. You want to know what that is? Playing hero ball. The reason the Buffalo Bills can't get over that hump is because Josh Allen tries to do it his way as the guy leading them, taking all these shots downfield, throwing 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions, throwing into double coverage, this and that. So what you want a quarterback to do, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, the list goes on and on and on. And all these old school quarterbacks, you hear all the stories about how they used to walk up to the line of scrimmage, call everything out, and bada bing, bada bing. That's not what it is. That's not the way it's. Brock Purdy's getting to Super Bowls now. And by the way, Brock Purdy played a good Super Bowl. I think the game Brock Purdy played wins 7 out of 10 Super Bowls. And they do it with a great team. Brock Purdy did not hold them back last season from winning the Super Bowl. I thought he did very well against a very good defense in Spags and Kansas City. So my point is, what you want, hero ball, okay, doesn't work without a complimentary amount of teammates with you. The only guy in the league is Pat Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers. Him and Devontae Adams. Go Willis. Willis to what? A loss at home in the playoffs in Lambeau Field? Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a defense. Oh, but when Aaron Rodgers finally had a defense, it was a big thing. Why? Because he needed a defense. Because you need help. Because you can't do it alone. There's no quarterback that exists where they just do it all themselves. Even Tom Brady needed Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and them to not run a ball at the 1-yard line to get one of their big-time wins. It's just how it goes. When Eli Manning won, some crazy catches involved, maybe, potentially, with a helmet. But the Giants' defense had some big names. That's okay. What you want is a mythical creature. And if you hold people to that standard, you're going to be severely underwhelmed. And I can't watch football like that. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate all the love and support. You guys are the greatest, and I will catch you all on the next one.